Hello, everyone. It's a
Rabbi.
it's a
Hello,
pleasure.
Rabbi.
It's a pleasure to be here and to see everyone here today, and for another YAH program, Tuesday morning program. And today we are starting something new, which we're going to do every month. We're going to have a few of our many beautiful members tell us a little bit about themselves, their lives, their journeys. You know, most of us here have not started out here. Some have started out in Montreal. Even in Montreal, there's been a journey, whether you came, you know, born in near downtown or in the East End, and moving around until where the Jewish community is today, and so many things have changed, or whether you have come from a different country, a different language, its own issues. So we all have interesting journeys in our life. Our life is a journey, and hopefully it's a journey that always gets better and better as time goes on. But we're always part of a journey, and we are very happy to be able to start sharing and hearing and sharing each other's journey. So we invited today three of our members, people we know each other for a long time. Charles, who was here with Shela Abadi, Isaac Shimoli, and Morty Berkovich. Each have different journeys that they'll share with us today. So we'll start with Charles Abadi, who will tell us a bit about his life. Charles originally is from Lebanon, and he is here. He has children who live here and in the States. Charles is someone we know very well for many years. Charles and Shela are, you know, beautiful people. We feel very honored to have them as friends, and we look forward to hearing Charles tell us a little bit about his journey. So Charles, it's yours, all yours.
Yeah. Thank you, Rabbi. It's an honor for me to present you my short journey or long journey, I don't know. I was born, my name is Charles Abadi. I was born in Beirut, Lebanon in 1936. My father, Chaim Hillel Abadi, was a businessman who owned a successful textile company. I have an older brother named Albert. We lived in a beautiful house. I forgot to say about my mother, Zichrona Libracha, Laura Dishi Abadi. She was our housewife. And I have an older brother named Albert. We lived in a beautiful house close to the Mediterranean Sea, close to the Jewish community, in the district Wadi Abu Jamil. Our synagogue, Magen Abraham, was within walking distance to the house. Beirut was a vibrant city with a Jewish population of about 14,000 people. Because of its beauty and culture, Beirut was known as the Paris of the Middle East. Lebanon was a democracy after being a French protectorate. The spoken language were French and Arabic. The Jews in Lebanon lived peacefully and in close proximity to Muslim, Protestant, Catholics, Greeks, Greek Orthodox, Armenian. There were many different religious communities that tolerated and respected one another. Life was simple and beautiful. We had everything we needed, from art, culture, theater, to delicious food. We enjoyed every day and lived life fully. We could ski and swim all on the same day. I went to primary and secondary school at the Alliance Israélite Universelle de Beirut. This is a Jewish school that was subsidized by France. It's used to call AIUB. We learned 4 languages: French, Arabic, Hebrew, and some English. And while I was at the Alliance, my brother Albert, at the age of 18, left Beirut to join the Israeli army, and he made Aliyah. Me, I was in studies. After graduating from Alliance Israélite Universelle de Beirut, I went to a lycée français where I got a BA in philosophy. And I started teaching French full-time at the school, the same, AIUB. At the same time, while teaching French, I was enrolled in an École Supérieure des Lettres, where I got the equivalence of a master's degree in literature. It was while I worked at the IUB that I met my dear wife, Sheila. Sheila was also a teacher in the same school. After a short courtship, we got married at Magen Abraham Synagogue. We had a large wedding, our family, friends, and our community in attendance. Following my marriage, I started law school part-time. I study in the evening and during summers while working during that time. In the mid-1960s, there started to be a civil unrest in Lebanon. After the Six-Day War in 1967, the political unrest in the region left the Jewish community feeling threatened. There was violence on the streets, bombing, kidnappings, and killings. Radical Muslim rebels used to call us Jew and Zionist, began to target the Jewish community. And that's when many families started to leave Lebanon. The Lebanese government continued to protect the Jewish community as best as they could. And just as I got my law degree in 1969, tension increased tremendously. And we decided to leave Lebanon. We had 2 daughters, Lori and Milan, 5 years old and 8 years old. And we saw no future for us anymore in Lebanon. I used to love Israel. We left everything behind and moved our family to Israel. We tried to stay there, but in Israel, it was very hard for French-speaking professionals to get established and to find work. I was offered a position as an administrative officer in Gaza, but my wife and parents were completely against it. We stayed in Israel for 6 months while we were preparing our papers to move to Canada. We tried to leave Israel after 6 months. We didn't make really Aliyah there. We landed in Montreal in 1970 during the storm of the century. When I looked out the window from the airplane, I was sure we had landed in Alaska. But as it turns out, we really were in Montreal. We moved in with my brothers-in-law and started looking for work. Looking for work was very hard. After more than 40 applications to 40 schools, I was consistently told that I was overqualified. Finally, and thanks God, Jewish Vocational Service offered me a position of an employment counselor. I happily accepted it. My wife Sheila got a job as a French teacher at the Hebrew Academy. We found an apartment and started our Montreal journey. While I work at JBS, I continued to study. I went at evening to the university, UQAM, University de Quebec, University of the Quebec à Montréal. I wanted to prepare a master's degree in psychology. As you can see, I love to study. After 5 years at JBS, I was promoted to be supervisor of a Jewish sheltered workshop. The workshop is an institution that trains adults who are intellectually and physically challenged to get integrated in the regular labor market. It was a unique and special program that promoted independence, autonomy, self-esteem, and dignity. My work felt very gratifying. I successfully negotiated with the Quebec government for the workshop to have a permanent subsidy to support its work. The workshop, till now, remains a model for this type of operation all over Canada and the US. And I am very proud of this accomplishment. During my retirement, I started taking courses with Chabad under the leadership of Rabbi Krasnansky, Rabbi Zalmi. In Lebanon, we learned to read Hebrew. We learned the prayers. We know very well the prayers, but never learned about the meaning of Judaism, the essence of Judaism. With Chabad classes, I have deepened my understanding of Judaism, its values, and its philosophy. I have loved learning with you, Rabbi Krasnansky, Rabbi Zalmi. Kol hakavod, all my gratitude. and all Chabad. You are our family. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you so much, Charles. It's to share
Thank you.
your incredible story, you know, and where you come from. A lot of pride where you come from. You carry it with you all the time, and what you have accomplished and done here to impact our community in Montreal. And we feel very blessed to have you and your wife as part of our Chabad at TMR. If anyone, before we move on to the next one, if anyone has a question, we'll take a question or two if you have. You unmute yourself and then we'll move on to the next one. If you don't have a question, we will move on. If you have a question, unmute yourself and you can ask.
Rabbi,
Yes, Dalia.
Mr. Abadi, I want to ask you if you have relatives from Baghdad.
I don't have relatives in Baghdad.
So your family, all of them was born in Lebanon?
Most of them were born in Lebanon.
De quelques générations, Lebanon, Syria,
Lebanon, Syria,
Turkey,
Egypt.
the Mediterranean,
There are families of Abadi in Israel, in Egypt. Most of them are in Israel.
Yeah.
But they came from Iraq. They came from where? Egypt, from Syria, Damascus. My grandparents were Damascus.
Turkey.
And I still have a Megillat Esther. I have it written by a cousin of me. His name is Abadi also, and I have it. I have kept till now. I have this Megillah, which is a very nice one.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you, Dalia. Anyone else have a question?
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Anyone else have a question? If not, we'll go on. Okay, so we'll go on to our next person who comes from the same region, Isaac Shimoli. Mr. Isaac Shimoli comes from Iraq, who has lived a big part of his life in Asia. And we're so happy to have him here close to us and part of Chabad, a beautiful person. And we'll hear Isaac share his story. So Isaac, you're on.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thanks for a kind word. Good morning, everybody. My name is Isaac Shimoli. I was born in Baghdad, Iraq in 1950 to an Iraqi Jewish family. My parents had 7 girls and only 1 son. I am the only one son. At that time, Iraq was a prosperous country full of natural resources, oil, dates, what have you. Iraq was a kingdom governed by King Faisal, who was appointed by the British government at that time. At that time, we were about 180,000 Jewish people living in Iraq. I'm giving you a little bit of background so you can appreciate what I went through my life, which is part of it is in Iraq. So on June 1st, 1941, there was a riot against Iraqi Jews, where about 180 Jewish people were killed and women were raped. Jewish property were looted and 900 Jewish homes were destroyed. The incident took place during Shavuot, which we'll be celebrating next week. Up until this incident called Farhud. I don't know, some of my colleagues here, they know the word Arabic Farhud, where it means the massive revolution against the Iraqi Jews at that time. Before the Farhud, the Iraqi people were really enjoying their life. This is before I was born. I'm talking about my parents, my grandparents. In 1950, the year I was born, a massive immigration of Iraqi Jews were granted to make aliyah to Israel, providing that they leave their properties, money, and what have you. My parents at that time decided to let only 2 sisters of my 7 sisters to go with this aliyah, thinking that in their plans to go later now that the aliyah was open. So they took their time, and my 2 sisters left already. They were 9 and 11, which I have never met because the year they left, I was born. But not knowing what kind of future can hold when you make your plans. In 1958, now my family and myself at that time, I was 8 years old, still living in Iraq. The kingdom of Iraq were overtaken by the military regime, by Saddam Hussein, which I'm sure some of you heard about him. Saddam Hussein was not a good man to the Jewish people, to us. We were, at that time, we were only 2,000 Jews in Iraq when Saddam took over. He did a lot of things bad to us. Number one, he confiscated our passport. He took our passport from us, so we cannot leave Iraq. As a matter of fact, we can't even leave Baghdad, the province of Iraq, to go to another province. So personally, my dream to meet my 2 old sisters at that time were vanished completely, because I thought I will never see my sisters again in my life. The 2 sisters that they left in the Aliyah, 1950. But Baruch Hashem, I managed to meet them in 1971 when I reached the age of 21 at that time. So I just want to give it to you. You asked me about my life. My life is really connected to my history. My life is connected to the struggles that I've managed to go through throughout my life and to make me the man I am today. Saddam Hussein, I'll go back again to that time, that again, like I said, he did a lot of things, some of the stuff that I mentioned now. During the 19th, you called about my colleague here mentioned earlier that there was a war in 1968, 6 days war. So Saddam Hussein put army, of course, with the rest of the Arab kingdom to fight Israel in 1968 war. But Baruch Hashem, Israel won the war, as you know, against 1 million, against 100 millions. That's why I hear that we managed to win the war. So what he did, Saddam, he started retaliating against the minority Jewish people in Iraq, like what you just mentioned, my colleague mentioned earlier in this meeting. So they came after us. What they did, Saddam Hussein, they took jobs from our parents. So my father lost his job and stayed at home. How can he support a family of 7 people with no money, with no food, with no income? But also they took all the husbands from their homes, from their wives and children, and never returned back their home. They don't know where they take them to. They said they were taken for investigation, but never came back home. Students were taken from the schools. They went to the schools and grabbed students by saying that we want to investigate it to get some information from them. Poor students, thank God I was not one of them, but my friends, they were beaten up. They were hanging in ceiling fans. Some never came back home. Students like me, at that time, I graduated from university as I was, and graduated from high school with a I was an A student, high marks, what have you. I was not allowed to go to university. Not just me, but all the Iraqi Jewish students in Iraq were not allowed to school. So we stay home. We're not allowed to work. So we stay home. Our houses were marked with Red Cross colors, indicating that we are Jews, that the people lives in that house are Jewish. So secret police, they will know where we live, and we were watched 24 hours, 7 days a week. And I was having seven sisters. I was worrying about their security as a boy, as a brother. My father was taken for investigation. For instance, I don't want to go in details. As an innocent, they take him in, they beat him up. I was with him, I waited for him outside. I wait nobody to know where it was a secret place, so I just want to make sure that he comes out of that area. I'll just talk about this story another time, but it was bad. He was beaten up and what have you. One of my schoolmates, her parents and brothers and sisters, they were shot in their home. They came in. Saddam Hussein was at the secret police at that time, was not yet a president. They were shot inside their houses. The mother, the father, the brother and sister. My schoolmate, God bless her soul, she managed to escape that horrible thing. She went out and she came back to home only to find out the scene of blood on the floor. What they did is they killed them, they shot them, and they put, sorry, I'm going too graphics, and they put their body parts in suitcases and took them out of the house. These things I will never forget on my life. But also what I don't forget at all and never forget about it, personally, as Isaac Shimoli, that I witnessed 9 Jewish people at the age of 19, was going to school. And 9 Jewish people were hanged in the center square of Baghdad called Saht al-Tahrir. They didn't tell everybody. They didn't tell the news. 5 o'clock in the morning, they hanged them, they put them in this Saht al-Tahrir, of all the people passing by Saht al-Tahrir, like me as a student, they were hanged. And me as a young student, I was afraid what's going on. It was, but I still had the courage to go find out what's going on. There's 1,000 peoples around that circles. Cars cannot even go, the buses cannot even go. But I decided to go to see what's going on. Actually, I didn't know they were hanging, but I managed with my books getting there, and I saw the scenery of the 9 Jewish people. Actually, there were 14. 9 Jews and non-Jews, about 4 or 5. Yeah, and some people even brought from Basra. They took these reputable people with merchants, Jews, who have monies, what have you, and they hanged them in the street of Baghdad, claiming that they were spies. And as I said, I managed to get closer and closer, maybe 5 meters away. The army was surrounding the circle, but I was able to put my hand to 2 of the soldiers' guns and to see what's going on. Only unfortunately, I saw a man who was an uncle of my friend who was teaching us mathematics a week before. I couldn't believe it. He was wearing the pajamas and with the socks, and on his head there was a bag, and they put a sign, Iraqi spy Jew, with his name. So today, it affected my life. I tried to forget about it, but a lot of people told me not to forget, to have to talk about it. So I'm talking about it today. Take advantage of taking it here so I could relieve myself of what I've seen. And after that, what they did is that they took all these bodies they took their clothes off and they dragged them throughout the street, major street of Baghdad, to the point they were putting it on TV. Anybody looked at it, children, women, anybody was looking at it. Baruch Hashem, this period passed away, and we couldn't take it any longer after all this, sitting home, my father, my mother. So thanks to the some people in Iraq, Iraqi Jews, one or two men that made a plan to get the students, the young people out. So I was me and my sister were some of the students who actually escaped Iraq. Now, how do we escape Iraq? We're not even allowed to leave Baghdad, so we disguise ourselves. We wore the Araqchin. We call it kippah in Jewish, but Araqchin, Iraq, Arabs. We wear dishdasha, a robe, Iraqi robe, just to look like Arabs. And we managed to go to Iran. From Iran, we escaped, and they went to Tehran. And Baruch Hashem, the Israeli community, they were there, they called Sukhnuth. They were there, they were taking care of us. They put us in a hotel in Tehran. And from there, they put us in El Al Airlines and went to, with my case, my father says, I want to do something with your life. I don't want you to go to the army. I respected his words. So I tried to manage to go to another countries, not Israel at that time, because of my father's wish. My father's wish was because I was the only son in the family. The oldest sisters, they went there to Israel. And I was in Iran. I feel there's a miracle. I believe in God, that if I'm not allowed, the Sukhnuth, they want to take me to Israel. And they encourage them. I don't blame them. But my father's wish is to go another country. And one thing to another, with the help of God, that the Sukhnuth chose me without knowing my plans, is to extend my stay in Iran to help them with receiving the rest of Iraqi Jews arriving to Iran. Administrative functions like taking pictures of them, laissez-passer, because we had to leave all the documents in Iraq. We cannot leave it when we escape. So I was there, and I managed to actually, it's a long story, but it's a miracle that I managed to get out there, accepted at Dawson College in Montreal, and on my own. Thank God, my brother-in-law and my sister, Joyce Kazaz, some of you know them. They were here in Montreal already, so they helped me as well. And Baruch Hashem managed to get out of there. Now, the second part of the story is my achievement. If I wasn't able to get out of Iraq regime, that I will not enjoy what I enjoyed, and Baruch Hashem for that. I pray every day, every morning for that. So I came to Montreal, I went to Dawson College. I finished Dawson College, went working in the daytime in factories and trying to survive. I worked for a company, Jewish company, some of you maybe know it, at that time, it's called the Maison Transport. They taught me everything about logistics and supply chain management. And I pursued my education. I graduated from Concordia. Then American company picked me up in Ontario, and then they took me to, so I won't tell you the story, but if it wasn't for this achievement or the opportunity to leave Iraq, I would never made it. I spent 7 years. They took me as an expat. Expat is somebody who works overseas, paid by the company, by the corporation he works for. So I was an expat, believe it or not, for about 25 years of my life, of my career. Major was 7 years in America, 4 years in Hong Kong, 4 years in China, 2 years in Malaysia, 3 years in Korea. Baruch Hashem, today I speak several foreign languages. I speak Chinese, I mastered the Chinese language. I plus the other three languages, Arabic, Hebrew, Arabic, English, French. As we mentioned, my partner ahead of time when we were in Iraq, they taught us how to pray, but they didn't teach us what's the vocabulary of the meaning, what you pray for. I knew about the Amidah. I didn't know what Amidah was for. And Shema Israel, what does that mean? I memorized it. Just the Muslim memorize Quran without even, some of them, like in countries like in Malaysia, they cannot read, but they memorize their prayers. So we were like that. But Baruch Hashem, I came to Montreal and I learned a language, learned how to pray, learn some vocabulary to understand what I'm praying for. So I came back at the age of 58, Montreal, thinking that this is it. I made my money. I am okay. That I will retire, but never retired. So I was some people from my previous life 30 years ago, before I left on my assignment, was Alan Maislan, who is probably some of you know him. I was working for him 30 years ago. So I said, look, why don't you come and work with me at the Jewish General Hospital? No money. If you don't do anything, we don't need the money. Come just help us, help the community, the Jewish community. So I did. I got in there. The CEO saw me, says, I want you here 24 hours. So I'm hiring. So they hired me. At the age of 58 till about 65, I was working at the Jewish General Hospital as the chief of logistics and supply chain management for the hospital. And then at 65 years old, I said, maybe it's enough. Maybe I could do something else. So, and there was an opportunity for retirement with a pension from the Jewish. So I took the option and I retired at the age of 66. Today, I'm very happy that I did what I did. I'm very proud of my career. So what I did after retirement, I managed to get another degree in international trade. I graduated from there. I'm working temporarily or part-time, I should say, as some companies, local companies, doing some work for them as a consultant, with some studies analysis. But I never stopped pursuing my education. After I graduated from the international trade, I'm pursuing a CITT designation, Certified Canadian Institute of Traffic Transportation. It's a designation, very popular in Canada. And do I have a future? And now I'm 70. I still have a future plans to work in a global logistics company in supply chain management and consulting and teaching as well. As Azrat Hashem, if I will get it. Anyway, one thing I want to finish up with, rabbis, like mentioned about Moshe, Rabbi Zami, the Lababis taught us that everybody has a mission in life. I asked the rabbis, what is my mission in life? I was told, and other rabbis from the Jewish Sephardic synagogue, they told me we had a mission of transfer your knowledge and expertise to all parts of the world. So this is my mission. I'm still pursuing that mission. Thank you for your attention. Thank you. Thank you,
Isaac,
Rabbi, for giving me the opportunity.
Isaac, thank you so much. It's not an easy story to tell, especially what you witnessed, no one should ever witness. And thank you for sharing with us and wish you a lot of success.
Thank you, sir.
And happiness in the future. If anyone has, before we go to the final one, if anyone has a question, unmute yourself, you can ask a question. Yes.
Rabbi, I want to ask Mr. Shimoli, in which year you left Iraq?
1971, September 1971.
Oh, I want to tell you that I am also from Iraq. My name is Dalia Rashti. And I was 4 years when my family and me left Iraq and came to Israel. So everything that you told It was a pleasure to listen to you.
Beautiful.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Isaac, so much.
Thank you,
And,
sir.
really beautiful and only beautiful things. So now we're going to go to our final, also a dear friend and longtime member in Chabad, and for the founding people of YAH, Morty Berkovich, whose story is a little different, grew up here in Montreal. And we love to hear, Morty, your story, what Montreal was then, what it is now, and how life is with 120. So Morty, you're on.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Bakar Tov.
Good morning.
My name is Morty Berkovich. I was born in 1934. That puts me in my 88th year. A blessed life, as you will see. I had fantastic parents. Rochel came from Kiev, Ukraine. She taught me right from wrong. She was always right. I was always wrong. Shloime came from Burdagen, Romania. He was a quiet man, so he was called Shloime the Schreier. He taught me honesty. I could come from a line of 6 generations of bakers. When I was in high school, Thursday nights, after school, I used to take the streetcar to the bakery and help him with the Freitag challahs. I was an incredible flechter. We had my father.
Morty, maybe you should
Yes.
translate some of the Yiddish words. Not everyone understands Yiddish.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought this was a Jewish group. Yeah, okay. Making challahs. Challahs is an international word.
A flechter.
A flechter. Yeah, challah flechter, yes. Anyways, where was I? One Thursday night after the last batch of challahs were in the oven, you know, I was, and we had a bite to eat then, you know. He didn't have a formal education, but he used to have words of wisdom. One night he said to me, Melach, remember, if you tell the truth, you never have to worry about anything you say for the rest of your life. That stayed in my head for the rest of my life. 1956, I married Pearl, of blessed memory. 4 years later, we had our first child, Joan. She's now my rock. Then came Mark Howard. He was taken away from us through SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. He came to teach me a very valuable message. 1963 came Samara Zimra, my baby girl that gives me a tremendous inspiration. Years later, I married Helen. They brought me that brought me Daryl and Stacy. Daryl was 5, Stacy was 2. From Stacy, I learned to love and loyalty. After that, a 21-year relationship with Doreen. You'll probably hear more about these people in my story. Where do I start? Well, I guess I was born at a very young age. It surprises me to be able to sit here and talk to you because coming from where I come from, you will be surprised as well as I was. At 5.5 years old, my mother sent me to school. I say my mother sent me to school because she was the matriarch of the family. She would tell my father what she's going to do, and he would say, all right. At 5.5, I'm in kindergarten. A little girl named Alice came over to me and said, I like you. I was a cute kid. I didn't know what to say. She was not Jewish. So I said, I don't like you. She got very upset and told her big brothers I stole a nickel from her. They caught me walking home one day from school, grabbed me by the neck and said, give Alice back her nickel, or we'll put you in this big wooden crate. You know, the crates that they used to actually ship the refrigerators in. Anyway, they threw who had a nickel, so they threw me into this crate, and I sat there. I sat there what I thought was a very long time. Anyways, um, when they finally let me out, I developed a stutter that lasted for over 30 years. Now, being short, fat, and a stutterer, I didn't have any dates. So on Saturday night, I would stay home and watch the hockey game with my parents. I remember one Saturday night, my mother sat on a sofa chair, my father on another sofa chair, and I had the sofa to myself. So after the second period, my father starts getting up from the sofa chair. My mother sees him and says, Shloime, you're going to the kitchen? He says, yeah. She says, I want to take you a pencil. I want you to bring me something. He says, why would I need a pencil? She says, your forgetter is getting better, but your rememberer is getting worse. Tell me, I'll show you, I'll remember. Okay, I want ice cream, chocolate syrup, nuts. Where am I? I lost my pages. Here we go. Sprinklers. Please take you a pencil. I'll remember I even put a cherry on top. 20 minutes later, he comes back with salami and eggs and a hot cup of tea. Ma yells at him, I told you to take you a pencil. He says, what did I forget? She says, you forgot the toast. Okay, now Salmi told me I have to do a 20 minutes, so I just read what what I wrote. It was only 11 minutes, so I wrote something else. I'll tell you a little history about my working times. I started working after school when I was about 13 years old. Fields Food Products. I remember that very well. I was packing shelves like after school. Well, of course, I worked at the bakery, like I told you, with my father every Thursday night. When I finished high school, my cousin Mervyn got me a job at Renatus Bedding. He taught me how to be an upholsterer. I worked there for about 3 years, became very good at it and fast, and word got out, and I was approached by Mr. Gold of Gold's Upholstering. He gave me a job as piecework. I was making more money than the foreman. The name was his name was Willie. One day when I was working on the sofa, I plunged a 12-inch tack in this finger. You could see that the nail was still broken, and that's about 70 years ago. And I called him over. I was stuck to the sofa, and I called him over. I says, Willie, could you get a pliers and pull me out of this? He came over, took a look at it, and he fainted. He just fell down and fainted. Anyways, uh, uh, my finger is still cracked, like I just showed you. One sunny day in July, I was filling a sofa back with hay, and it was separating the hay in a ray of sunshine. You know, the sunshine was thick with black soot. I spit out black. I looked at it. I got very upset, wrapped up my tools, and left. Mr. Gold offered me more money. I said no. Hashem works in mysterious ways. That same morning, my brother Dave left his lunch at home. My mother asked me to bring it to him. It was 10:30, and he worked about a block away from me. I arrived at Skill Litho. I saw Dave with one of his partners, Ray Besner. He asked me why I'm not at work. I told him the story, and Ray offered me work there immediately. I started at about 1/3 the salary I was making at Gold's. I learned to be a lithographer pretty fast. My brother kept increasing my salary, to what finally became a decent wage. Now I was earning more than the other strippers there. Yes, I said strippers. We were called strippers. What we were doing. Paul and Izzy Engel, the other partner, spoke with Dave and told him I was making too much money, and the other strippers are complaining, and they want the same. So I had to leave. I got a job at Rapid Grip in Baton, a prestige printing house, same salary as I was earning at Skill. Mr. Monroe, the general manager, called me into his office one day and said, "Can you handle an account? RCA Victor Record Club book." I never said no to a challenge. I met Alan Katz from New York, who was now my source at RCA. We had a very good rapport. The RCA bought Columbia Records, and we started doing their books. You must remember, uh, we would send you a book every 4 weeks. If you didn't return it within a day or so, they would send you that month's feature record. Mr. Monroe was very happy with me, and he used to give me bonuses. I love those bonuses. Alan left RCA to go to work for Air Canada. I still did the record club book with a different source there. Maurice Cohen, the sales manager of Metrographic, approached Alan Katz from Air Canada, and he wanted to print the Air Canada timetables. Alan Katz said to him, "If you could hire Morty Berkovich, you got the account." So Paul, Izzy, Maurice, and Dave took me to Mauritius to talk me into coming back. I did because of Dave. The best thing I ever did. When you do work for Air Canada, it's like you work for them. Anytime I wanted to travel with my wife, I can call Lawson Tremelin. He replaced Alan Katz because Alan had to go back to New York. His mother was passing away. He would get me free passes to anywhere Air Canada flew. With that came a card that for hotels that charge you only 20% of the list price. If the hotel was $100 a night, I paid 20. Our first trip with Helen, my second wife, was Montreal to Bombay, India, Bombay to Singapore, Singapore to Bangkok, and Bangkok, Thailand. There were two other stops, but I don't remember. It's just a long time ago. Mostly first class. If it was available, 90% of the at the time it was available. Because Air Canada at that time didn't have any partners, so they had a lot of empty seats. We traveled the world in the 7 years I was able to get those free passes. Greece, the UK, China, Canada, to name a few. Let's see if I made up the 9 minutes that I need. Okay, I'll go back to my original story. At Barnby High School, I fell in love with Rosemary Hops. She was a tall, blonde, beautiful Jewish Rosemary Hops. I loved that name. Like I said, I was in love with her, but how can a short, fat kid ask such a beauty out on a date? I had to love her from afar. 30 years later, while I'm at work, my employer comes to me and he introduces me to Earl Curtis. He says, "Morty, I'd like you to meet Earl, our new sales rep." I was almost noon, so Earl asked me, "Where do you eat lunch?" I told him, we have fantastic food at the Colonial Tavern, and you can join us if you want. While eating, Earl asked me, "Where do you live?" I said, "Dollar Des Mo." He says, "Me too. I'm on Ferncrest and Harris." I said, "I'm on Jolly Curran Harris, 1 block away." He says, "You must come over for happy hour." Happy hour? This is this. Anyways, we set a date, and I walk over with my second wife, Helen. Earl answers the door. I say, "Earl, I'd like you to meet my wife, Helen." Earl calls out, "Rosemary, come and meet Morty and Helen Berkovich." She was busy in the kitchen, but she ripped her apron off, ran through the door. My heart fell into my stomach. She was more beautiful than ever. She said, did you go to Barrending High School? I said, yes. She says, boy, did I ever have a crush on you. From that day on, I never took no for an answer until it was really no. I read the obituaries daily. You know, normally I read until the B's, and if I don't see my name there, I know I'm going to have a good day. What comes after B? I read Earl Curtis with his wife Rosemary by his side. There are two Jewish funeral homes in Montreal, one for frum people and one for secular Jews. So I show up at Paperman's funeral home. Remember, this is another 30 years later, maybe just to see what Rosemary looks like now. Anyways, she was short because I got taller. She has short white hair, almost the color of mine. Still beautiful. I thought if she acknowledges me, I would get in touch with her and try to help her through this trying time. She didn't recognize me. Was that the end of Rosemary? Who knows? I had the good fortune to spend 24 winters in Arizona. My significant other and I bought a house in Peoria. One December 18 years ago, I was reading the Arizona Republic, came across an article saying, come celebrate Hanukkah on ice with us. I had to see what this was. This is Phoenix, Arizona. Where do they get ice? Changed my life. I met Rabbi Bill Ben Lou. He invited me for Shabbos. I met his wife Hannah, his children at the time, Chaya and Zalman. The rest is history. They have become my extended family. I was there for every bris and naming of their next 8 children. I have never heard of Chabad Lubavitch before, but you know, I learned about Chabad. When I was leaving, I told him, I said, I'm gonna miss this, you know, like the Shabbat thing. He said, you're not gonna miss anything. He said, here are addresses. He gave me the address of Chabad, of Queen Mary. He gave me Chabad of the town, and he gave me the Chabad. I forgot one. Anyways, so when I first arrived at Chabad, it was with Rabbi Fine at Chabad Queen Mary. I loved it. I loved the people. I loved what Chabad was doing, and what, you know, everything that Chabad did, and it was great. Anyways, in the year 2000, the Canadian dollar fell from the greenback, so I had to sell the house. I started renting in Glendale, Arizona. Glendale is important. You'll see why. 3 years ago in Arizona, I dreamt of Rosemary. We dated once when she was young and once when she was older. I was wondering how come, after all these years, I'm dreaming of her. After Googling her name, I read Rosemary Curtis Mihas. Passed away December 14, 2016, in Litchfield, Arizona. Litchfield is one city southwest of Glendale. I don't know. Maybe I had dinner in the same restaurant with her, walked the same streets with her. I don't know. But how she turned out to come and die in Arizona, in Litchfield, I don't know. That is how much I got for you. If you want more, you're going to have to buy the book. Zagebenched.
Okay, Morty, thank you so much. I want to thank everybody, Charles, Isaac, and Morty, for your wonderful, incredible life stories. Everyone their own journey, their own path, and when you see somebody else's story, it gives you a lot of inspiration in your own. I want to thank you all. Just to remind you, this coming Friday, we'll be getting together at 12:30 for our pre-Shabbat. Next Tuesday, because it's the holiday of Shavuot, there is no program, and we will rejoin the following Tuesday. So again, thank you, Charles. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Morty. Thank you all for sharing your life stories, and we enjoyed it very much.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you for the opportunity.
Real pleasure. And
Isaac Hakoyen.
Hey, Morty, miss you.
Me too.
listen, there you go, from Iraq to Montreal.
There we go. Yes. Yes.
The beauty of the Jewish
Relationship.
people. Wherever you come from, we're close and connected.
Baruch Hashem.
Fantastic. Okay, guys, take care. Be well.
Thank
And we'll
you.
see you. Please go.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Take care.
Yes.